This is a DMB Society podcast.
I got a sister named Jane.
And this is the pod that Jane likes. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the pod that Jane likes. This is Matt, and I'm joined by Jeanette, Trisha, and Sean. And we are here, as always, to bring you all of the latest news and discussion surrounding Dave Matthews Band. Today, we're going to take a closer look at the summer tour that is coming up, as well as talk about some of the interesting happenings at the Gorge this year.
Honk honk.
But before we get into it, if you like what you hear, please give us a follow on all of our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. And now we're going to start putting each of our episodes out in video format on YouTube. So please head over there, subscribe, so you can see our smiling faces every week, in addition to hearing our dulcet tones on your and also, if you feel so inclined, please take the time to give us a review on Spotify or iTunes. These reviews help us a ton, and they're always great for us to see and read on the air when we can. And finally, if you're new around here, we've released a couple of great episodes recently. Our last episode was our Jazz Fest review. And before that, we sat down with Clay Cook from Zach Brown Band to talk to him about a lot of really interesting topics, including the Guilford venue, John Mayer, the influence of DMB over Zach Brown Band that was had and that continues to be had. That was a really great time, so go check that out as well. And before we get into talking about the summer tour, we had a few DMB news items to hit this week. First, we've got a big announcement that just came in from the DMB camp about Farm Aid in September. Trisha, do you want to take us through the Farm Aid announcement?
Yeah, Farm Aid 40, they're calling it. 40 years of Farm Aid. How incredible is that?
That's awesome.
I mean, it's
really
incredible.
Cool.
So this is going to take place for the first time in Minnesota on Saturday, September 20th at the Huntington Bank Stadium, which is on the University of Minnesota campus. And that alone feels cool and different. Like previously, it was at SPAC and Deer Creek and Raleigh and Hartford. This is on a college football campus, which is pretty... college football stadium, which is pretty cool. The lineup features some of the same names, of course, Willie Nelson and family, Neil Young, John Mellencamp, Dave and Tim, of course, Margot Price. And I think that the new person on the scene coming is Billy Strings. And I think a lot of people are going to flock to that. So tickets are on sale Friday, May 16th to the public. There is a pre-sale that likely already took place by the time you heard this, but exciting. 40 years strong.
40 years strong. And this is going to be the 28th year that DMB in some form or fashion has been involved in Farm Aid. The first couple of years, it was full band, the first 3 years to be specific. Then there was a period where Dave was performing solo at Farm Aid. And then more recently, we have had this Dave and Tim iteration. As a matter of fact, Dave and Tim have performed 17 times at Farm Aid. So an awful lot of DMB music has been performed over the course of those previous 39 Farm Aids.
If you haven't been to Farm Aid, I highly suggest, if it's in your area, to check it out at least once. It's always a great day, full of music, full of, learning about where our food comes from. And I highly recommend it. Or watch the live stream. There's always a live stream as well.
That's true.
Always a beautiful, gorgeous live stream. I'm curious, with it being at this stadium, if it's going to affect, I know for a good amphitheater seat over the last several years, Farm Aid has been a pretty tough ticket. I mean, it's one of those things where all the good amphitheater seats sell out. Typically you can get in on the lawn, but even that becomes, in some cases, has become a little bit more difficult. So with it being at this big stadium, I'm just curious as to what the demand's going to be. Will be interesting to see as we get closer, especially with Billy Strings. I mean, he's a pretty big deal, from a touring perspective. Puts on a great live show and has an in-demand ticket as well. So for everybody who's already always there, plus Billy Strings and Nathaniel Rateliff and Dave and Tim and all that, I mean, it'll be interesting to see as we get closer. And so second, the other big piece of news that just hit PTJL headquarters. Sean, do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, so it is kind of telling with what time of year we're at, I guess, because what Matt's referring to is the fact that we have now officially launched our 2025 Pod the Jane Like Summer Tour shirt. We've done this for a few years now, and we have the 2025 one available in our online store now. So if you have not been to podthejanelikes.com, there's actually a bunch of things going on there. You can kind of keep up with what we have going on. All of our social accounts are connected there. You could listen to the podcast there if you wanted to share it with somebody who maybe isn't into downloading podcasting apps on their phone. And then we have our merch store there, and we have our 2025 summer tour shirt. So it's always fun to be out on the road over the course of the summer and see that shirt pop up from time to time. So we're pretty excited about this one.
Yeah, equal news to Farm Aid 40. Of course.
Absolutely.
Huge.
Right on the same level.
Groundbreaking, earth-shattering news to hit this podcast. So t-shirts on the brain along with shorts, sweaty concerts. Is everyone getting into a summer mood? During that Clay Cook episode that we just recorded, it seems like yesterday, it was snowing, and that was in April. And now all of a sudden, here we are a few weeks away from the tour kickoff. And we did a quick run through of all of these dates when they were first released, but we've had some time to digest, and we want to take a deeper dive in our first segment that we call the opener. Okay, so DMB Summer Tour 2025, 35 shows in all in 3 countries over the course of about 3 months, plus a couple of Dave solo dates that we'll save for another episode, and this Farm Aid stop for Dave and Tim. You have to think we might get a couple of other little announcements here and there about, whether it's Dave and Tim or, another Dave solo show. I wouldn't be surprised. But let's dive into really the reason that we're all here. The iconic DMB Summer Tour that's been in full effect for 95% of the time since the band formed way back in the early 90s. And we kick things off in Bethel, New York, a gorgeous venue and a place the band has played several times before. Jeanette, you've been to this place to see a few shows, right? Not just DMB, I believe. And
that's right.
It's on my list. What's the vibe? I can imagine it will be incredibly high for the home of Woodstock and also for the tour opener.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. It's the home of Woodstock. So the vibe, as soon as you drive onto the venue, you kind of feel that energy of so much history happened here that weekend back in 1969, right? There's a Woodstock museum that you can check out if you're inclined to do so. Rather than tailgate, go check out the museum. You can, as you walk into the venue, to your left is the actual home of Woodstock, is where Woodstock took place. So just to look off out into that open field is quite exhilarating. It's very like, oh my God, I can't believe this is where that happened. I've seen DMB there quite a few times. I believe this will be their 7th performance at Bethel Woods Performing Arts Center. Probably been to like 5 of those. And I also had checked out Dead and Company there, which was very cool because Grateful Dead performed at Woodstock. So they wound up actually playing the same set, which was really iconic. But yeah, Bethel Woods, I believe, opened in 2004, so it's still a fairly new venue. But yeah, gorgeous place to see a show. I plan on being there again this year for sure. And it's kind of cool that it's kind of the opener of the tour.
Gorgeous venue. I remember the last time they played, I went and I was complaining about walking up a hill though. And that was before the podcast. So I'm really interested to know what the slopeability report is when I go again. And I will be reporting back on that. But it is gorgeous. It's breathtaking, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're going to be in mid-season form at the tour opener on reporting about the slopeability. Well, after Bethel, which is a Saturday night, the band comes home to Boston. No, I'm just kidding. Comes to Boston to the Boston Calling Music Festival, which my hometown is Boston, and I'm super excited We just celebrated 4702, which is an epic show in the history of DMB. It's the first play of You Never Know, and the epic bartender that was featured on DMB 25. And this is the first show in Boston proper since 2018. There's always the Mansfield tour stop that is billed as quote unquote Boston, but really it's closer to Providence than it is to Boston. So I don't even really consider that Boston. So first show in the city since 2018, which was on the winter tour. And it's at a festival with a bunch of other bands that I've never seen. I've always wanted to see. Like Sublime, for example, is going to be there. I've never been able to see them, so I'm really looking forward to this. I can't wait for Boston Calling and the DMB return to Boston, and then a quick turnaround from there up to upstate New York, Syracuse, the first show there since 2021 at the Lakeview Amphitheatre, which I'm also excited to go to. I was there last year to see Kenny Chesney, and it was also a breathtakingly beautiful venue. So again, first stop there since 2021, and I will be in attendance up in Syracuse. And then we jump right over to Blossom, which is kind of interesting. It was cut, Blossom, the venue was cut in 2023, and we were thinking, is this going to be an every other year tour stop? And now we get Blossom in back-to-back years. We had actually talked about going as a podcast to Blossom because everyone had told us how awesome it was, and none of us have ever been there, and it just didn't work out.
If I remember correctly, we made a pact.
We made a pact assuming that it was going to be 2026, and and here we are, 2025. So I'm still holding to the pact if the return happens in 2026, but maybe it's back. We'll see.
Okay.
Then the band jumps over to Meriwether, which is Maryland, and no Bristow. So this is the sort of what do we call that area? Our nation's capital area. This is somewhere in the middle of Baltimore and DC. And this won the Pod That Jane Likes award when we did our venue awards for the wild card venue. Sean, do you want to just mention what your experience has been at Meriwether?
Meriwether's great, and it's so interesting and fitting that you mentioned Bristow in the same breath as Meriwether, because they seemingly go hand in hand, right? If almost regardless of what band you're a fan of, when the summer tour gets announced, you're either getting one or the other. DMB has a lot of history at Bristow, that's undeniable, but at least in comparison to what the actual venue is, there really is no comparison. Meriwether is a night and day better experience in terms of a place to see a show. Just a really gorgeous venue, a really unique venue in the sense that there is a balcony, and the balcony is actually a grassed area. So it's almost like there being an elevated lawn. And it's just a really beautiful place. The venue sounds great place to catch a show. I'm always excited when the summer tour announcement comes out and Meriwether pops up. It doesn't happen all the time, but I was glad to see that it did pop up this time. I believe this is going to be DMB's 5th trip to Meriwether, so this should be a fun one.
And do you guys know of any other venue other than Meriwether and SPAC that have a balcony? I think that those are the only two, right?
Man Center in Philadelphia.
Man Center in Philadelphia, but not necessarily a regular.
No, right.
Yeah.
Dave and Tim did it in 2017, but not a regular DMB stop.
So interesting. If you're a balcony person, you like the balcony, go check out Meriwether or check out SPAC. Yeah,
some people like a balcony.
So after Meriwether, we hit our first New Jersey tri-state area tour stop, Holmdel. Jeanette, your home venue,
my home venue,
and seemingly a venue that never gets skipped, right? It's pretty much an every year kind of thing, right?
Well, to be fair, it was skipped for like 20 something years, and then it came back up, I want to say 2012, and hasn't been 2012 or 2013, hasn't been skipped since then. Even included on the Dave and Tim tour in 2017. But actually, I'm lying, because it was skipped the year that the band did that festival See Here Now in Asbury Park, which was 2019.
Sure.
So it was skipped the year, but I mean, because it's very close to Asbury Park, which is why I'm sure there was some sort of contract as to why they couldn't perform there. But back in the 90s, always a DMB stop I listened to so many tapes from back then. We called it the Garden State Art Center. I've listened to so many tapes from that venue, and then I became a DMB fan, and they didn't play it for years. And about 20 years later, here it was 2013, and they were finally playing my home venue again. So I'm glad it's a typical stop now, and I don't have to miss it.
Can you give us the name of that again? The original name of the venue?
The Garden State Art Center.
The Garden State Art Center. So people are always like, it's still Deer Creek to me. So
no, it's
it's still the Garden State Art Center.
Yep. Yep.
All right. So after Holmdel, of course, the normal pattern is Holmdel and Sao Paulo. So we return to Sao Paulo.
Yep. Right around the block from
right
Jersey.
Around the block.
Same feel.
Just
same
kidding.
vibe,
The band does indeed go to Brazil after the Holmdel tour stop. Trisha, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so here we are, 6 shows into summer tour, and then they head to Brazil. And this is very exciting for our Brazilian DMB family. I mean, you might know that the band photographer Rodrigo Simas is responsible for growing that Brazil community. And so the band played there in 98, 2008, 2013, 2019, and this will be their 5th time. And they're playing at the Best of Blues Rock Festival. So it's a festival, or it says festival, but DMB is playing 2 nights. And the website for this festival does say that, come see Dave Matthews Band, Rock Hall of Famer. They'll never repeat a song. So I don't think that this is what might feel like a normal festival tour stop. I actually think of this as like a 2-stop
an actual
tour.
Stop, yeah.
An actual
For
stop.
sure.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, good news. If you go to Holmdel and you're inspired, you're really in the DMB mood. It's only 4,700 miles to the next show.
Right.
And you've got a few days to get there. You
got a few days
piece together the travel as you go.
Yeah.
Head up the Garden State Parkway to Newark Airport. And
There you go. And
There
just
you
hop
go.
a plane.
Easy.
it's really not that hard, guys.
And then it's so funny when they come back, it's like they've never left, because if you follow the tour regularly, it's usually Holmdel and then Jones Beach.
Mhm.
And what do you know? The band's back to the tri-state area for Jones Beach as soon as they're done in Brazil. It's sort of just like a little a little side trip. A little fork in the road, little dip, whatever you want to call it, to Jones Beach, which was nominated for Most Beautiful Venue during the Venue Awards, which is, I've always wanted to go. I say every year that I'm going to try to go, and it's always during the week, and it's always so hard. And but one of these years,
I'm going to convince Matt to come this year. I'm going to.
Yeah,
it is beautiful.
Yeah,
no doubt.
So after Jones Beach, we head out to Riverbend, which is right outside Cincinnati. A great regular tour stop for the band. A lot of history there. There have been, Sean, what live tracks is it that's from Riverbend?
Live track 16.
16. There you go. And I believe that there's some Halloween history there as well from several years ago. So a great stop in Riverbend. And then to Maryland Heights, where I believe that there's quite a bit of music going on around the time the DMB is there. Guys, what's the buzz about Maryland Heights?
There's a lot of people going to Maryland Heights of St. Louis, for those that don't know. And that week, actually, Goose, who we'll talk more about when we talk about Gorge openers, but Goose plays 2 shows in St. Louis, and Billy Strings is there that week, and Dave Matthews Band. So that's a big week of music. If you like any of those bands, it's a good week to go. And if you like baseball, the Cardinals are home that Monday. So baseball game, Goose, Billy Strings, DMB, all in that same week in St. Louis. Yeah.
Pretty exciting. Pretty exciting. It's always cool when stuff like that overlaps, and you can, if you're like us and you like live music and sports, and you can combine it all into one trip. It is great. So look forward to seeing how that goes. So then after Maryland Heights, we hang over to South Carolina, to Charleston, which has now become a regular tour stop. I think this is the 4th year that the band has hit Charleston, and this is the first domestic 2-night stand of the tour. Charleston is a very small venue, and everybody who has ever gone seems to love it. We normally get a lot of messages from people. Have you been to Charleston? What do you know about Charleston? Oh, I went to Charleston. It was amazing. So Charleston, the first 2-night domestic stop for the band. That should be exciting, as it always is. And then fresh off of Charleston down to Birmingham to a brand new venue, 9,000 seats, no lawn. This is the alternative to the Orange Beach shows that we've seen. And I did a little Google mapping, and it is a few hours away from Orange Beach in Alabama. So if you're headed to Birmingham, you're not going to be anywhere near the water. And it'd be really cool to see what this is like, a state-of-the-art venue, again, brand new, 9,000 seats, no lawn. There's several other, really cool bands that are playing there. So I'll be curious to hear from any of our listeners who are heading to Birmingham, what it's like, and it'll be interesting to see if it becomes a regular tour stop after this, or if the band goes back to Orange Beach. After that, swing over to Alpharetta, which is, again, another regular tour stop now in that sort of southeast part of the country. Alpharetta, we've heard good things about, and I'm sure that this is going to be a good one as well. And then back to, this is where things start to percolate a little bit, I think. After Alpharetta, the band heads to Northerly Island, which is in Chicago, for 2 shows. I know everyone is always not as happy when it's the Northerly Island year versus the Alpine year, or versus another Milwaukee venue. But I think that, DMB always puts on a great show in Chicago. There's a lot of history there. And I think that they love playing there. So I think these shows are going to be pretty great as well. After that, we swing over to Toronto, which is it's a frequent stop, but it's become less so over the last several years. We don't have as much history over, in recent times with Toronto. So that's great. And that brings the tour into the third country of the tour. So that's pretty cool. And then back over to back into the States for Pine Knob. I know we always talk about a Tuesday in Michigan versus SPAC, but the band always comes back and always brings the heat when they are there. And I was doing a little bit of research on Pine Knob. It's on Bob Seger Drive, which is pretty awesome. So you can't really go wrong with that. And I also didn't realize this, but Kill the King debuted there on 6/6/06, which is also
666.
yeah. So maybe Dave will be looking at those set lists and decide the Kill the King needs to return. And so I was saying that things were percolating at that point, and this is where we really get to where things are really going to pop off for DMB 2025. Not to say that what we've already talked about is not going to be great, but this is where we get into the beginning of an epic venue run. We start off in Deer Creek. I know you guys have been to Deer Creek. I have not been to Deer Creek, but I do know that Deer Creek won the PTJL Venue Award for Best Lawn. Jeanette, what can you tell us about Deer Creek that we don't already know?
Deer Creek is an iconic venue. It has a lot of history, especially for jam bands, I would say. Like Grateful Dead has history there. Fish has history there. And same goes for DMB. They've been playing there since the 90s. Like you said, it won our Best Lawn Award. It's just massive. The lawn is massive. It's smack dab in the middle of Indiana, with nothing around it. But there's just something about the energy there. There's a lot of people camping. It's only, I would say it's about 20 minutes outside of Indianapolis. So it's not really in a city. So it is off the beaten path, but definitely one of those venues where the band brings it every single time. It's the venue where Let You Down was brought back. I celebrated my 100th show there, so that should go down in DMB history.
Of course.
But yeah, for sure. It's one of those venues that you put on your bucket list,
Absolutely. It was our first time last year, and it is still the venue I think about the most. Like there is so much, like you said, history there, that there's magic on that lawn. I don't know how to explain it, but that lawn is special. It's why that won the award. I'm glad I got to check it off the bucket list, and I do hope to get back.
Yeah, and speaking of history, we talked a little bit earlier about there being no Bristow, and I think part of the other reason that there's no Bristow is that we are going to get our first show from DMB in Richmond, Virginia in a very long time, right, Sean?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Matt. Richmond is, when you look at places that DMB plays over the course of their entire 3-decade plus history, there are few cities that have the type of history that the city of Richmond has. Richmond, located just about 70 miles outside of Charlottesville, and of course, Charlottesville is Mecca if you're a DMB fan or any way associated with the band. So Richmond was kind of a place very early on in the band's career where they had very regular gigs. And of course, the place that comes to mind is the Flood Zone, which was a place that DMB played regularly. And at least of the shows that we know of, and the reporting from those days, those very early days, could be a little sketchy sometimes. But from what we know of, we know that DMB performed at Flood Zone about 80 times just at that one particular venue. And then an awful lot of performances in Richmond in other places. The Memphis Restaurant, for example, about 2 blocks away from the Flood Zone. That's a show that ended up being released through the DMB Live series. Dave and Tim have played a number of Richmond shows, including some shows at VCU, which is in Richmond. The Classic Amphitheatre show, which is a very well-known DMB show because it went on to be released as Live Tracks 4. An awful lot of history in Richmond. And in some ways, DMB's return to Richmond is something that has kind of been almost 3 decades in the making, because it's been just about that long since DMB was last in Richmond. And this time they're going to a brand new venue, the Allianz Amphitheatre, which is brand new. DMB will actually be the first artist to play a multi-night stand at the venue. I think it's going to make for a very, very special 48 hours in the city of Richmond.
So from Richmond, we head up to SPAC, to the annual 2-night stand in Saratoga at the Saratoga Performing Arts Center, the pod that Jane likes venue award for best sound and overall best venue. If you've never seen a show at SPAC, you've got to go see a show at SPAC. There's just something in the air in SPAC, and it is, it's in a park. The shows are always epic. The sound is great. And if you want to talk about a tough ticket on the summer tour, getting inside at SPAC is probably the most difficult thing to do across the board. It really is.
It really is.
There's limited seating. There is the balcony that we just talked about before, but getting in and getting inside there is always it's always a tall task if you don't win the warehouse lottery or luck out on Ticketmaster. But again, if you've never been to SPAC, go to SPAC for sure. After SPAC, the band heads to the easiest venue up in New Hampshire, the venue that won the award for easiest venue, which is the Bank New Hampshire Pavilion in Guilford. You know it. You love it. If you have not listened to our Clay Cook interview, go listen to it, because Clay's family runs Bank New Hampshire Pavilion in Guilford, and we learned a lot of really cool stuff about the venue, all the stuff that's there, the reason that artists come back, and it's a really good listen for just that purpose. We're going to be pumping that interview as we get closer to Guilford, because it'll be just really cool to revisit that. And then, of course, how could we forget, after we leave New Hampshire, the band has got to head down,
beautiful,
back down to New Jersey,
the most beautiful venue,
to the most beautiful venue in the world,
the Gorge of the East.
The Gorge of the East. Yes, it's been known as the Gorge of the East. Camden, New Jersey, right outside Philadelphia. And normally what's funny is that at this point in the tour, I think we're used to this being like the West Palm stop a lot of times, the Florida run, and the band, kind of taking an extended vacation. I'm curious to see if they're going to do the same, jump in whatever river that is, that what's the river between
the Delaware River,
the Delaware River,
yeah,
in New Jersey, Philadelphia. You never know, you might see some paparazzi pictures of the band doing that.
Oh
Just
my
kidding.
gosh.
But, I'm sure that's not going to happen.
Not.
It's so funny. We have a listener, his name's Mike, and he had helped me get tickets to Camden. He's like, well, I'm going to help you get these tickets, but on your next episode, you can't say anything bad about Camden anymore. And I was like, oh, wait. I just want to be clear. I love Camden.
Oh, yeah.
no,
You guys have made that abundantly clear that you love it.
We joke, but this is all joking with love.
Yeah. When I say hellscape, I mean that in a positive way.
Yes.
Like
the best way possible. We mean
truthfully, 3/4 of the pod doesn't ever miss Camden one way or another.
Yeah, right.
That's right.
We're pretty much there every year. And it's there've been a lot of pretty epic shows that have taken place in Camden.
True.
Yeah. So when I say I like to tailgate next to a dumpster, I mean that with like love in my heart.
I want nothing less than that.
Exactly.
I mean, a Camden tailgate versus a SPAC tailgate, it's like, it's not even close.
It's not.
And what a run, Matt, you mentioned it. What a run this is that the band is on.
It really is. It really is.
Pretty absurd. Deer Creek, Richmond, SPAC, Guilford, Camden.
All 2-night runs.
Unreal.
Yeah.
All 2-night runs, all venues that have just had insane shows over the last few years. We got the Guilford Live Tracks release. I know we were talking last year, we had just I think you guys went to Camden right after Guilford, and we had just come off of that high, and the shows in Camden were great too.
Yeah, they really gave Guilford a run for their money for sure.
Yeah, and like same thing with with Deer Creek. There's always there's always great shows there as well. So yeah, I mean, when you talk about how this tour kind of builds, it really is amazing that they've got all this stuff just crammed in to this, what is it, 2.5 week period of these 2-night runs.
If I could, I would go to every single one of those shows.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're
I actually don't put it past us.
If you're going to do a run, that's the run you do.
One thing that I want to say before we continue here, because we're about to hit sort of that regular break that DMB takes at the end of July, before they reconvene towards the end of August for some warm-up shows in the Gorge, is I threw this out there last year. I know we talked about it a little bit. If you're going to do multiple DMB shows, I highly recommend spacing them out so that you're seeing shows at various points of the tour, because it really is, it really does change. The vibes change. The set list crafting change, the songs that are in rotation change, and it really is, if you can catch part of these, this epic run, but you also can catch a show early, that's what I would highly recommend that you do, because it really is always a great way to go.
Yeah, it's such great advice.
So that being said, after that break, again, I said we're not going to talk about the Dave solo shows, so we're not going to do that. But we are going to fly all the way across the country to another venue that DMB is going to make some history at. Jeanette, do you want to tell us about their stop in Inglewood?
Yeah, Inglewood, California is basically Los Angeles. And the band doesn't usually stop in LA all that often. It's not a regular stop really on the summer tour. Hollywood Bowl has been known to be played every once in a while. I know that Irvine is not too far. That has an amphitheater, but the Kia Forum is an iconic indoor arena, once home of the LA Lakers. Basically the MSG of the West, I would say. However, not as big, only about 18K seats in the Kia Forum, but it's been around since the 60s. It's a iconic venue. Even the look and shape of it is very, you recognize it when you see it in a picture. And I'm really excited that the band is playing this venue. It's indoor in the middle of the summer, which is always nice, because it'll probably be air conditioned. But it's an iconic venue, and this will be the second time DMB is playing there, and it hasn't been since 1998.
Yes, which is pretty wild. Yeah. The fall tour 1998 is looked upon with so much reverence from the DMB community.
Yep.
And so this will be the first time that DMB pops up there since then, which is pretty incredible. We're seeing, you always think that you've seen it all with DMB, and we're getting all of these kind of things that we're dwelling on here that are pretty cool things for a band that's been on the road for as long as DMB has. So that tour stop should be great. After that, it is Shoreline, which is a regular stop for the band, and then over to Lake Tahoe, which is for sure on my list. I don't know if you guys have seen pictures of this venue, but it's almost like they set it up like just like a temporary venue, and it's at Lake Tahoe, and like the surroundings are unbelievable.
Yeah,
this is
awesome.
One of those that's always on my list, and also something that is a show that is very, I believe, hard to get tickets to. I think it sells out really quickly, and it becomes a really hard ticket because it's so small. Because, as I said, it's just like, they pop it up for the summer, and then it's gone. So really cool. Really interested to see what happens there. And then, of course, the final stop on the tour, 3 nights at the Gorge, as per usual, on Labor Day weekend. The Pop the Chain Likes Venue Award for the most beautiful venue, the Gorge. And speaking of the Gorge, there are a number of interesting openers that we want to talk about. This could be the most epic lineup of any regular DMB show in a long time, disqualifying Soulshine. So let's jam about the Gorge lineup. Okay, so after the initial tour announcement, we found out DMB rolled out some news that, as they have done in the past, there will be openers at the Gorge. This is always kind of interesting because I know we've talked on here before about how a lot of our favorite bands we discovered because they opened up for DMB at one point or another. So it's really cool that there are places where you can still see an opening act. If you've never seen an opening act with DMB, Dave usually strolls out and introduces every act, which I think is really awesome. I mean, that's always struck me. I don't think I've ever seen any other band where that happens. It's almost like Dave has taken these bands under his wing and wants to promote them and wants to collaborate with them and wants to, wish them the best in their career. And that's just always been something that's stuck with me over the years whenever I've seen DMB with an opener, that Dave comes out and does that. So he will be doing that at the Gorge for a number of different bands that we want to talk about. The first band on Friday night is a band called Southern Avenue. This is 3 sisters and one of the sisters' husbands on guitar, soulful blues and gospel. I listened to a little bit of this band, and I was thinking a little bit War and Treaty, but a little bit more Americana. And one interesting thing that I took away from that is they have a fiddle, guys. So, we've seen in the past when there has been a band that has opened and has had a fiddle that there have been a few guest spots. I think the most recent one was Sierra Hull's band in Mexico this year. So be interesting to see if we see a fiddle on the stage again with DMB. And then after that, we have Kaleo, which is an Icelandic rock band who wrote the song Way Down We Go, which has, get this, 1.3 billion streams.
Wow.
1.3 billion streams
Unreal.
of this song. When we were talking about this, we were saying, oh yeah, I think we know this song. I think I know that song. And so, I was listening to it and noticed that. And so to put that into perspective, that's about 6 times more than the most streamed DMB song, which is Crash Into Me. I mean, that is insanity. Like,
Right.
Wow, this band is a pretty big deal. And that song has been featured in more than 3 million TikToks. I mean,
Wow.
This is crazy.
Wow.
I mean, like, so many people have heard that song, and will, I'm sure, be like, oh, I know this song when they're at the Gorge.
Yeah.
So that'll be really really cool. And that was just mind blowing to me. I mean, to be in the billions club on Spotify is really a
Yeah, that's something.
it's a very small group, and good for them. That's really cool. So that's Friday, and then the Saturday lineup features first off Oscar and Julia, which they were originally called. I couldn't get a lot of information on them, which I thought was interesting. They were originally called the Tailspins, and that's, if you want to listen to them, you want to look up the Tailspins on Spotify. They're kind of from another time. They're think swing, big band.
Oh,
They're a husband and wife. little bit more raw than what you would hear in like a malt shop, but like along that same kind of vibe. I was digging it when I was listening to it. So that's pretty cool. And if that wasn't cool enough, a huge deal on Saturday night is Bela Fleck and the Flecktones will be opening for DMB Saturday night of Gorge weekend. Now, this is a humongous deal. As you know, Bela Fleck is a pod that Jane likes, Hall of Famer.
That's right.
And we have seen Bela pop up from time to time with DMB, but we have not seen a Flecktones lineup pop up with DMB in a long, long time. Sean, what can you tell us about the Flecktones and the history that we've seen with them with DMB?
Yeah, you're 100% right, Matt. It has been a long, long time. And truthfully, there are few musicians that have really had the impact that this band, Bela Fleck and the Flecktones, have had on DMB. And I think that most people probably gravitate to the fact that they performed so frequently with them in 1998. That was also the case in 2000. There were a whole bunch of performances, but then things really tailed off. And the last time that the entire band has come out and performed with DMB, you have to go all the way back to the Randall Island shows in 2006. So it has been a really, really long time. Some special shows. It was actually 2 nights in 2006 at Randall's Island. Really, really cool things. Actually, night 1, midway through number 41, the Flecktones, each one of them just gradually, one by one, kind of ascended on the stage until everybody was collectively on stage for number 41. They then stayed out for Ants, and then they popped back up the following night as well. So it's been a very, very long time since the entire band was even in the realm of possibility of performing with DMB. If you remember, speaking of Bela Fleck and the history of that band and DMB, they were scheduled to open the Gorge in 2000, the COVID year, or 2020, I'm sorry, the COVID year that never happened. So that was a bummer. I mean, there was a lot of reasons that 2020 was a bummer, but that was one of them, because the opening lineup at the Gorge in 2020 was really impressive.
That's right.
And people were unbelievably excited for what could be that year. Obviously, all of it was for nothing. And now fast forward, here we are in 2025, and there's finally the possibility of some sort of collaboration again. So, so much to be excited about. It's crazy, Matt, listening to you talk about the night 1 openers, and that was really impressive. It's an impressive group of artists, and that's just the first night. Now, night 2, you bring in probably the most iconic group that could potentially do any type of collaboration with DMB. It doesn't really get any bigger and any more substantial than what the Flecktones bring to the table.
Yeah, it is. The Flecktones, I think, for us, especially a lot of the fans, us who have, who came up in the 90s with the band, the Flecktones hold such a special place in our hearts. My first show in 1999, they just kind of appeared out of nowhere. They weren't on the bill. They just came out, and Carter and Future Man had a drum off, and they played on 41. And I always think about how interesting it was that both Jeff and Leroy were on the stage for my first show together. Pretty crazy stuff when I think about it too hard. And they're just it's of another world when DMB and the Flecktones get together, and this is going to be really an exciting time for all of us who are fans of DMB, and also DMB history, and also the Flecktones. And I'm really excited. I'm also curious to see if Jeff Coffin plays with the Flecktones, because they have a different horn player now. So
I would assume
if Jeff
I would assume
he'll come out, but yeah.
That's a good. I mean, we're hoping we'll put that out in the universe right now.
Yes, absolutely. So that is Saturday, and then Sunday, Luis Cato is the first person up on stage. I'm sure he will have a band with him. Luis Cato is a great musician. We were lucky enough to see him after MSG a couple of years ago. Jeanette, what more can you tell us about Luis?
Yeah, Luis Cato is the band leader of Late Night with Stephen Colbert show. He does have his own band. I'm assuming that's who he'll be bringing with him to the Gorge. He plays almost all the instruments, bass, guitar. But I think is mostly known for his guitar playing. He came out in 2022 at Madison Square Garden with Dave Matthews Band and played an epic version of Lie in Our Graves. Maybe we'll get that again. I don't know. But yeah, like Matt said, we were lucky enough to check him and his band out after an MSG show in 2023. And it was a great night of music. And so I'm very much looking forward to hearing him play, and then the next band who we're about to get into play, and then our beloved Dave Matthews Band play.
Oh, Luis was awesome. That show after MSG, I mean, I changed my train home because I wanted to stay longer to see this band play. I mean,
he was changing his train home during the show, guys.
During the show, on my phone, changing my train.
Because he was like, I gotta stay here. Like, I'm not staying for one song.
I mean, it was one of those like the amount of there were,
it was funky,
in the hundreds of people
we
there,
were dancing.
under 100 people there, and it was just like the amount of talent on stage was insane.
Absolutely.
And not only if Luis brings that same band out to the Gorge, then I think that there's so many collaboration options for DMB.
We're getting a horn section.
Horn section. I mean. Yeah, just incredible stuff. And then there's a band called Goose, and then the weekend's over. I'm just kidding. I kid. So then this is Sunday, so we have Luis Cato on Sunday, and then a favorite band
honking around,
Rick and Peter and crew will be in the house opening for DMB. Trisha, the floor is yours to discuss this momentous occasion.
This is so exciting. This is so exciting. Some people might know that some of us on this podcast love Goose a heck of a lot. And some of you might have heard Goose at Soulshine or most recently at Jazz Fest. And so this announcement to me just shows a little bit of a growing DMB Goose crossover that's happening. Or I imagine, or at least I dream, that maybe Dave and Rick, the lead guitarist, are like best friends now, and maybe they text, and this is how this all happened. I don't know, but it's super thrilling, and it was like I committed right away once I knew Goose was going to be there. And typically, a Goose show is 3 hours long with the most incredible light show. This is going to be a little bit different. Obviously, it'll be shorter. And it'll be probably a little bit still daylight, but I am excited to be there. I'm excited for them. This will be a huge venue and a huge audience for them. And so just super exciting. What I'm really excited about, though, is a potential sit-in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I have to ask Matt, if you had to choose between Bella or Rick for one song, who would you put on Lie in Our Graves and who would you put on 41?
Ooh, wow. Putting me on the spot. I think no question I would have to put Bela on 41.
Right answer. Oh.
Like on what?
On 41. On 41. Like the
okay, fine, but
Bela
also on Lie in Our Graves.
And Rick on Lie in Our Graves is what I would do.
Wrong answer.
You would switch it, Jeanette?
Yeah. Well, no, I would just do Bela on both and Rick would be like on something else.
Okay, Rick on what? And I'm serious because I really think and want to put out there that there could be a sit-in. Maybe this is a good. You can think about that. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe
Sean,
this is a good jam topic.
Well, I mean, I could tell you what I mean. We've talked offline about this. My feelings on Rick. I think that he has an incredible voice. He's an incredibly talented guy. So I would love to see his voice featured as much as his guitar playing featured. So I would pick something where he could. He could sing some vocals. I don't know if it's The Wait.
Like The Wait or something,
something like that. Even, Rick is very
Watchtower, maybe
in a lot of dead bands. Yeah, I was going to say Watchtower. Even if there was like a Sugaree, something like that. We know Dave has played Sugaree. Dave was supposed to play Sugaree with John Mayer at the Fire Aid which Dave had to pull out of. So yeah, I would pick something that featured Rick's vocal. Honestly,
right.
is what I would do.
I love that answer.
I mean, Corey Wong had such a iconic 41 at the Gorge last time. It was great that I'm really dying to hear what Rick could do on it. But Sean, what do you think? You're also a Goose fan.
Yeah.
Well, this is really exciting, right? And this is coming off the heels of Soul Shine, which was kind of mind-blowing, the collection of artists that they put together for Soul Shine. But in the midst of all of that, and we talked about this in a previous episode, it just created this unbelievable environment for collaboration. And of course, as everybody probably knows by now, Dave actually came out during the Goose set and sat in with Goose. Now, I think what a lot of people are curious if it's going to happen is the other way around. And I think that's what you're describing, Trisha, whether it's Rick, whether it's Peter, whether it's anybody in the group, will they find a way to incorporate them in the actual DMB set? I think that there are an awful lot of connections, and we've talked about it on here. I think it's pretty well known at this point that Rick has talked on multiple occasions about DMB being an influence on him when he was younger. So I imagine that would be something that was pretty thrilling, and Soul Shine was unbelievable, right? It was, what Goose was able to do with the condensed set that they had, and then DMB kind of closing off their third night, if you will, at MSG, all of this taking place at the same time. It was unbelievable. And I think it only has people more excited than they normally would be for what the possibilities are at the Gorge. This lineup is pretty unbelievable for the Gorge 2025 weekend. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, not having collaborations would be a huge miss, I would think. So I'm putting that out in the world that there'll be collaborations all over the place. And for those of you that don't know, Goose does have a new album out called Everything Must Go. And actually there's a couple of songs with horns on there. So it would be so cool if there was a collaboration the other way of Jeff and Rashawn coming out for a song or two. But just thrilled. Counting down.
I think this is a great, not opportunity for Goose, but I think this is such a good fan base to get in front of. So I'm excited for them, and I think it's going to be a really, really, really Sunday night's going to put a new meaning to Never Miss a Sunday show.
Never Miss a Sunday show.
Yeah.
All right, so we've made it to the end of the tour preview. As we have done in the past, guys, I want to pass it around, and I want to ask each of you what song is going to come back this year. What liberation are we going to see from DMB? I'm going to start off, so you have a couple of minutes because I did not prep you for this. I'm going to start off.
Surprise question, guys.
I'm going to stick with my answer that I've given now for, I think, 2 years. Kit Kat Jam. We saw it in Mexico, which I don't really count it. So I am going to throw Kit Kat Jam again out into the universe. Please, Lord, bring it back. Please give it to us, full band, because it just needs to happen. So, Sean, I'm going to start with you. What is coming back?
This list could be so long, right? There's so many things I could go with here, but I am going to go with a song that, at least in a full band setting, has not been played since the 2-set year that was 2015. And depending upon who you ask, this is a song that almost exclusively appeared in the first set, in the acoustic set of those 2 sets. And depending upon who you ask, it may have been the most epic song to have been performed acoustically in 2015. The song I'm referring to is Snow Outside. And I really, really, really would be excited to see what this version of DMB would do with Snow Outside. Because it has been so long, this current setup of the band hasn't touched the song, at least to our knowledge, at least with an audience. So I'll cross my fingers. And even though that list is long, I'm going to go with Snow Outside as what I would really, really love to see at some point this year.
Well, my favorite version of Snow Outside is the one with Bela from the 2-set years. So
put it out there.
That would that would be great if we saw that. I'm sure when we get to it, we'll discuss Away from the World at length and the forgotten songs from Away from the World, like Snow Outside, like Broken Things, that are, I think, some of the best work that the band has ever done, that are just never, they're just gone. And, and if they come back for very limited runs, and that would be great. Anything from there would be awesome. So, Jeanette, let's kick it over to you. What's coming back?
Well, I'm going to just stick with the same answer that I've had for the last 3 years, which is Crazy Easy.
It's a great answer.
Yes.
It's going to be my answer until it comes back. So let's go, boys. Like, where is it?
Come on.
Go learn it.
Go.
Because Lord knows you forgot.
All right. And Trisha, what do you got?
I think I actually won this last year when I said alligator pie.
You did win.
Yeah. So, all right. I'm putting this out there, but you had mentioned it earlier in the episode, but Kill the King. Free the king. Free the king. Like, let's go. It's time for Kill the King.
Yeah. Put it on the shirt.
Hashtag free the king. That's my
all right. I like that answer.
Well, I can very confidently say that I'm not sure that I would still be standing if I was at a show and the run went Kill the King, Snow Outside, Crazy Easy, and Kit Kat Jam.
We'd be in coffins.
We would just be.
We wouldn't be in this universe anymore.
Yeah.
We would spontaneously combust or something.
And the really great news about all this, guys, is we are so close to this tour kicking off.
We are.
Memorial Day weekend is really not this week; it's next weekend, which is insane. That's when we will get to see DMB back up on the stage. And also, in addition to that, the next episode that you hear from the pod that Jane likes we're gonna graduate into the triple digits. We are going to hit episode 100, which, little round of applause for that, guys. Awesome work.
It's crazy.
Be really exciting. We've got a couple of fun things planned for that episode. So when we see you next, we will be able to share that with you, and can't wait to do that. So if you have enjoyed what you have heard, again, please follow our social platforms, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and now YouTube, where you'll be able to see our smiling faces and see and hear our claps when we give them. And leave us a review if you can. And we will see you for episode 100. We will talk to you.
Peace out.
Bye.
Be on the road.